Foundation Physiotherapy at Georgetown Honda present Out of the Park with Barry Davis. This week, Shaun Marcum says, let the fans boo.
Fans are going to do what they want. They have the right to do that. And you just got to go out and play the game the right way. And whatever happens, happens.
And now, here's a man that got booed louder at a Blue Jays game than any non-player I have ever seen. It was an easy pop fly in a game against Baltimore. And from the press box, Barry botched it. Here he is. It's Barry Davis.
Oh, Tom, if I could only have done the thumbs down on the fans booing me. Oh, I got destroyed. I got destroyed.
Oh, yeah.
And not only at the ballpark, but for weeks and months, and even to this day, sometimes people look at me and go, hey, you dropped the pop fly. Yeah, thank you for reminding me of that, Thomas. You sure do. Welcome to the program, folks. That is Tom Forth. I'm Barry Davis, and we got a great show for you tonight as we are joined by former Toronto Blue Jays pitcher Shaun Marcum. And Thomas, Shaun, he's got an opinion on a lot of things, like a very strong opinion on a lot of things.
Yeah, he was definitely one of the more old school guys that we've talked to. And it's funny because, you know, we talked to pitchers like Stottlemyre, maybe from a generation and a half before, and they tended to be more progressive on certain issues than Mr. Marcum was. But you know what? He had some astonishing perspectives about the game and about things like showboating and stuff like that we get into that are really cool.
Yes, it will be a great conversation to check out. Also on the program, Raj Sapaya is going to join us, and he's going to talk about something I've never heard of before in my life. And I'm for those watching, I am so unaware of what this thing is that I actually forgot, and I'm going to look it up again, and I'm going to tell you what it's called. There you go. Liz Frank injury. Are any of you familiar with Liz Frank injury?
Frankly, Barry, I'm not.
Okay. Raj is going to tell you about it and which sport in particular it's most prone to affect. Also, we're going to hear about a great new watch that is coming out. One of our loyal Out of the Park listeners has developed a perfect watch for baseball fans. If you love baseball and you like wearing watches, you're going to want to watch this and listen to this because this is a very, very cool thing. Hey, speaking of cool things, Tom, when we come back, whoa, they're red hot at the right time. There's Tom Forth. I'm Barry Davis. You are listening to and watching Out of the Park.
Play ball!
Ladies and gentlemen, girls and boys, the first pitch with Barry Davis.
And it is first pitch time here on Out of the Park. And wow, so many baseball topics we can get to today, Tom. And as we record this, the Blue Jays coming off yet another big win against the Oakland A's. Where do you want to begin?
Well, you know what? I want to begin with reliability. I think the up and down battle over the weekend against Oakland really illustrates how important it is to have reliability in your life, be it in a bullpen, be it in a starting nine, be it in an automobile, Barry.
Whoa, what are you saying, Thomas?
Oh, I think I just segued to Hondas, didn't I? Reliable automobiles? I don't know what brought me to it.
It just so happens that I know someone who works at Honda. And that's me, folks, for those who don't already know. And I have really held back from peddling my own business. But heck, it's my business. And if nobody wants to step up and buy sponsorship, then I'm going to buy sponsorship on the station. So I'm going to talk about the unbelievable Honda cars. And I know if anybody's out there has been looking to buy a car over the last, 2, 3, 4 weeks, specifically a used car, you're going to have a really hard time because the industry has just really gone wacky, whereas everybody's buying used cars, so there's no used cars. And lot after lot, place after place, there's very few used cars. So if you are in the market for a used car these days, don't expect to get a deal because these things go so fast. If you are looking for a new car, again, inventory is a huge thing. And I had no idea just how much COVID affected and snowballed to different things. But whether it's cars, boats, ATVs, anything with a motor in it, Tom, like they're getting harder and harder to find.
So how do they find you, Barry? How do they find you? How do they find Hondas through you?
Oh, well, they can DM me on Twitter if you follow me at Barry Davis _, or you can email me at Barry, Barry, at georgetownhonda.ca. Come check out the 2022 Civics, folks. They are incredible. I may have to get one. I might trade in my CRV and get a Civic, even though I've only had the CRV for like 4 months.
You need that room, Barry.
How much room do I need? Look at me.
You know what? You'll feel better. The more people you get into the nice new Civic, you'll feel better about not having one yourself.
Well, it's true. Well, I tell you what, $1.40 a liter, maybe it's time to downsize. That's all I have to say. All right, no downsizing when it comes to the Toronto Blue Jays, Tom. And listen, the thing about this team that I find is the most compelling and intriguing is that it can break your heart and make your night 3, 4, 5 times in the same game. And that's the way this team has been. And the game, I believe it was Thursday or Friday. And Friday night. And the Jays, had a lead. They blew it. They fell way behind. They tied it. They blew it. And then dramatic fashion. This is, if you're a sports fan, this is the stuff that you live for.
It is, and I think it really underscores, we're 5 back in the wild card as we are recording this. Just took 2 exciting games from Oakland. One where we clawed back and then almost gave it away and then finally beat them. And then another one where we again clawed back and then almost gave it all away but hung on. And, whether we're 5 games back with 5 to play and we're completely basically out of it, or we're 5 games back with a month to play, this is actually my favorite month of the year for baseball. And like when I was a kid, my baseball had ended, and that September Blue Jays, that was how I got my fix. Sometimes we were in the pennant race, sometimes we weren't. And this year we're kind of on the cusp right now, right? Like it's right, but let's look at this as fans. It's an exciting team, just like it was on day one, right? And whether or not we're in the thick of it, I think it's going to be really exciting baseball the rest of the way. I think you're going to have a lot of young players that really want to prove something. So I'm not even going to worry personally about games behind. I'm not at all. I'm just going to enjoy baseball this month. I think it's going to be amazing.
We have a lot of very loyal listeners and viewers of Out of the Park. And so if you are this particular person and you are listening or watching the show, please, we would love to have you on next week. I'd love to talk to the person who put that big Facebook post on about Vladimir Guerrero about 2 weeks ago, about how he's burned out. He's done. He might hit 1 or 2 more home runs. He's just so out of gas. Have you seen Vladimir Guerrero play over the last few weeks? Not only is he showing the power again, and he's still getting that average going, but you see him run the bases. This guy's got a lot of gas left in his tank.
Yeah. I don't know. I have a hard time really slagging many of the offensive components this year. Not everybody had all-star Silver Slugger type years, but you're right. I see progression almost everywhere in the order. Semien is a perfect example, I think, of a guy who's really at the top of the league in a lot of offensive categories like home runs, right up there in WAR, and there's a lot of people howling for blood, and I don't think we've got an MVP award for Vladdy this year. And we probably don't have the playoffs, but again, let's just try and enjoy, because there will be some amazing baseball coming up this September. And you're right, like we can get down and we can forget that there's 700 plate appearances in a season. But I don't know. I have a feeling that it's going to be some exciting baseball in September if we don't let where we are in the standings get us too down.
Yeah. When I look at the Blue Jays offense, and it's so hard to kind of say, how good this team is as a whole offensively, but you'll hear people look, oh, Grichuk, oh, he sucks, or, Semien, he's this. This is how I like to grade players. I look at it and say, are they having a better than average year, an average year, or a below average year? And what I want is the 9 people in my batting order, I want them to all be having average or above average years. And that's where you're going to. So, again, Randall Grichuk is not hitting 280, 290 like he was earlier in the season. But he's having an average year. This is what Randall Grichuk is, right? We can't expect more or less from him. Is Marcus Semien having a better than average year? Yeah, he is. And that could draw up his value when it comes to being a free agent. And it may be something that the Blue Jays have to look at and say, is he going to put up another year like that for that amount of money?
Yeah, it'll be curious to see kind of how the free agent thing pans out this offseason, right? Like every year now for the last 3 years, we've had a different reality that teams and players have to contend with. But I'm inclined to agree with you. Like there's nobody really sticking out like a sore thumb since Dolis was unfortunately let go. Like there's nobody that we're howling for. We're what, well above 500 right now
as of time of recording, 10 games above.
Yeah, and we're playing in the most competitive division arguably in the MLB right now. Tampa's raking, and the wild cards in the American League are New York and Boston. They're all in the AL East,
and they're all winning. And the fact that Jays took at least 2 against the Oakland A's, that's huge because that's one of the teams they have to leapfrog.
It is. And both of those games, I believe, when we got one on Oakland, but we didn't get one on anybody else around us. But it really does. It goes to highlight. Like, this is a great team. There's amazing components. There's a lot to be really happy about. And I think we said at the beginning of the year, it didn't seem like a World Series team.
Nope.
It seemed like maybe a wild card team. And, I remember, Barry, your whole push was Nate Pearson. And Nate just got into a game on the weekend, right? And so that was a big disappointment. But I think that was emblematic of a lot of stuff that happened in the Blue Jays pitching, right? We had a really solid core of starters.
Yeah, and I was just going to say that.
Yeah.
Say what you want about how the bullpen has been spotty at best this season, but, man, you could never in your wildest dreams have expected that there would be a Cy Young Award candidate and it wouldn't be Ryu.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
I mean, man, I have a lot of faith in what this Blue Jays rotation can be like in 2022 if they can re-sign Robbie Ray. Because I'd love to see him back in this rotation.
Yeah, everybody's talking Semien this weekend because of the home run, but I'm right with you. Robbie Ray, I thought the big miss last season was Tawan Walker.
Yep.
And if we don't get Ray signed and those pants signed, that's going to be the big miss of this offseason.
Well, you know what, Tom? We're going to go from pants to watches. And up next, stay with us, folks. You're going to love this, especially if you're a baseball fan. There's Tom Forth. I'm Barry Davis. You're listening to and watching Out of the Park.
A little bit of a different look here on Out of the Park now. It's such a beautiful night. We decided to take the show outdoors. Well, at least I did. Tom, you're still indoors. And we want to introduce you now to a guy that has been a longtime listener of Out of the Park, a big supporter of the show. And Fred Deneau, you sent me a DM on Twitter telling me about this watch you created. And as soon as I saw this, I said, we need to get Fred on this show, show the watch off, and let people know how we can get it. First of all, let's see what this watch looks like.
All right, let me show it to you. Just right there. So let me just. So I don't know if you can see it.
Yeah, bring it back a little bit because there you go. So if you're a baseball fan, and we'll get a picture of this watch too.
Yeah.
This is the perfect baseball watch. This thing is gorgeous. How did you come up with this idea, and how are you going about now getting them out to the public?
Okay, so basically, I was searching online and saw that the beautiful Hublot watch that was made for the World Baseball Classic back in 2013, if I'm not mistaken. And when I tried to buy it, I saw it was $18,000. So I figured out I would hide that from my girlfriend, and I realized that I was better to create one myself. So I did some research on how to manufacture a watch, basically, and found some manufacturers who were willing to help me out with that. And then I start drawing it, and with some back and forth with the manufacturer, we came out with that model, and it's pretty cool. In fact, there's a lot of details in it. You have the home plate at 12 o'clock. You have three bases, which are also diamond at 3 o'clock, 6 o'clock, and 9 o'clock. You have the seams as well in the middle of the watch. And the strap is also recalling a baseball.
Yeah, the strap is actually my favorite feature of the watch. You've got the black and white options available. I've seen images of. The white is stunning, and I would never wear a white watch strap ever in my life. I will wear this one. It looks absolutely amazing. It looks just like a baseball. It's absolutely. Well, where did you come up with the idea for it?
Well, I'm a huge baseball fan, and I thought it would be a great addition to the watch, but I wasn't sure either, because never I would have wear a white strap. So that's why I get the black strap as well.
The black strap seems like the playing it safe, but I think this is my prediction. I think the white strap will sell at 2-1, because it really sets off the watch. It's such a unique looking watch. What was your inspiration for the design of it?
Well, basically, I thought about baseball, and I tried to get some details, and I leave the dial, which is the face of the watch, a skeleton which you can see through, just to show the movement, because the precision of a movement is just like a precision of a pitch. I mean, if you recall AJ Burnett curveball, there's work behind that, and you see that in the watch. So that's basically where the idea came from.
Now, there's a limited amount. You're only making 300 of these. So first of all, why the limited amount, and how can somebody get one of these watches when they're available?
Well, the 300 amount is another small detail. 300 club. So that's basically the reason why. So, and it's going to be available on Kickstarter on August 16th. And I've decided to go on Kickstarter because it's the safest place for both myself and the customer, basically. Because if the project isn't funded, you're not losing your money, you get refunded, and I'm not fronting the money to purchase 300 watches, basically.
Awesome. Well, there's only going to be 298 available, because Tom and I are both going to be first in line to get one. We both love this thing. Like, we really love it. I can totally see myself wearing a watch like this every day. Listen, Fred, thank you so much for joining us, and good luck with this project. And we're going to do everything we can to push this out to our viewers as well.
Well, thank you very much, guys. Have a great day.
Thanks so much. Have a great day.
Foundation Physiotherapy presents The Medical Room.
Well, joining us, as he does on each and every Out of the Park, is our good pal Raj Sapaya from Foundation Physiotherapy.
It's all weird here.
We are actually doing this without Tom today. So go ahead. Do you want to rip him? He'll be watching, so go ahead.
No wonder it feels lighter in here.
Very good. Raj Sapaya, 3 locations. Now, vaccine passports. Have you guys figured out how that's going to work with Foundation Physiotherapy?
Okay, so we are essential. So we kind of fall into the aspect of healthcare for our clients or any patients that have to walk through the door. We do not require to show a vaccine passport. You have to fill out a COVID screening form like we do everywhere you go, but we are not allowed to deny care. That's just because it's healthcare and it's essential. But we know in society, the other non-essential stuff like restaurants and bars and gyms are the ones that require vaccine passport. Our staff, however, have a vaccination policy in place. But our patients, we don't discriminate. They just have to fill out a COVID form like everybody does.
All right. We got that out of the way.
Yeah.
The locations. Let's get the locations out so people know where to find you.
Yeah, we have 3 locations in Toronto. One right downtown at City Place, one at the core, and we have one in the East End near the distillery. So, and we have one online. If downtown doesn't work for you, then give us a call online, and one of our therapists will be happy to jump on a virtual chat with you and figure out what's going on.
Nice. Okay, so every once in a while, Raj Sapaya, I see an injury note, and I look at it and go, what in the world is that? I've never heard of that before. Have you ever had anyone come into your office and say, Raj, I'm suffering from Liz Frank injury? Like, where do they come up with these names? And please tell me that there was somebody famous named Liz Frank who discovered the cure for this, or like, what do we know about this?
Yeah, so typically in a lot of these medical terms, it's typically named after the doctor who has found that type of condition or treated it. So I believe in this case, it was named after like a doctor or surgeon that like coined this injury. So I think he saw it in a bunch of different athletes or soldiers, and that became like his injury. So that's what I think Liz Frank is, but we know how to treat it. I'm not sure of the history of it, but I know how to treat it.
Well, let's talk about, before we get into the treating of it, what is it, and what type of sport would you think it is most common to occur in?
Okay, yeah, so that's a good question. If we look at our foot, okay, so Liz Frank injury happens in our foot, and if we look at our foot where our toes meet the foot, right? So think about like tracing back to your toes where the toes meet our foot. That's called our midfoot. So that area between the toes and our ankle, essentially, that's called our midfoot, right? And a Liz Frank injury is a bone or ligament injury that's going to like displace the bones in that midfoot area. So it's actually several bones that have that. We have a lot of bones in our feet. And when bones get displaced, whether it's because of a break, like a small fracture, or whether because of ligaments or the tendons have been ruptured, that's called a Liz Frank injury. So a Liz Frank injury in a general term is a midfoot trauma. And
it could be a break, but it doesn't necessarily have to be a break.
No, it doesn't. It could just be like a displacement, kind of like the two bones could just be apart. Like it could just be a compression, or it could be that the tendons in it are like ruptured.
Okay. Sports that are most common to see this type of injury.
Surprisingly, it's not. Like you probably will see it. If I'm gonna be honest, in the four sports, you're probably gonna see it most in football. When like a heavy player steps on another player. So typically it's when like one player's foot is like kind of like, think about his heels off the ground. So that midfoot is exposed. So only his toes and his midfoot are on the ground, and then another player falls or crushes on him, right? That's where you're going to get that displacement. So of the big four, you're probably going to see it in football, but it also happens in any kind of sports, like where their foots are binded in skiing, snowboarding, kiteboarding, like all those things where your foot's binded into some sort of device, and your body might twist over it.
So if somebody's diagnosed with this, there could be a myriad of things that you could do to. In some cases, it may not even be physiotherapy. It may be you need to go to a surgeon and get something done on it. I mean, is that how wide ranging this is?
It is. You're always going to need physio. It just depends when you need it.
Right. Always. Right? Never forget the physio.
Always depends when you need it. But first, you might need a surgeon. I think definitely you're going to, if there is some sort of major trauma to the midfoot, because there's so many bones in there, even if you can put weight on the foot, we will always suggest getting an x-ray to see what's happened. So first and foremost, you get the x-ray, see what's happened in that foot. And if the x-ray reveals like a fracture or displacement, the next call is to go to the surgeon. Now, because those bones are small, they might not always operate on those bones. It's not like a femur or something like that, which needs to operate on. They might just conservatively operate. They might put you in a boot and let the bones heal themselves so you're not displacing it further. And then once the boot is off, you start physio to regain your strength back. There might be some small tendon repairs they do in there, but it really depends on the extent of the damage. So the step's always going to be the x-ray first, then likely a consult with the surgeon, and then probably you'll still need physio, depending on what the surgeon requires.
So Raj, could I make an appointment to see you about the fact that I am suffering from Raj-Sapaya syndrome?
Well, that's just if you miss me so much. Then
No. Raj-Sapaya syndrome is a serious pain in the ass.
Oh, come on. That's not good.
But one that we love. Raj, always great chatting with you. Maybe we'll have to call it the Tom Forth injury, okay?
Or the Barry Davis syndrome. Where
that's just
don't move.
Excessive happiness. That's what I suffer.
Oh, is that what it is? Okay.
Raj, always a pleasure. Great to talk to you, and we'll chat again with you next week.
Thanks, guys. See you later.
Been matched up against the other team's number one his last 4 times out.
He gets Matt Trainer to end the inning.
How are you enjoying coaching? I mean, I'm loving your Facebook posts and all of the great moments that you've had coaching these kids. First of all, for those viewers and listeners that don't know, who do you coach and how long have you been doing it for?
Baseball-wise, I coach at Liberty High School. This past season was my 3rd season there, minus the, second official season with playing since we got canceled in 2020 with COVID. And then I've got my son's youth team. There'll be 15U incoming freshmen. And then I help with my middle child's team. They'll be 12 years old. And then I coach wrestling at Excelsior Springs, where my alma mater, my high school, my hometown.
Wow. So where's your passion right now? Is it on the baseball diamond or is it in the wrestling ring?
During baseball season, it's on the diamond, and during starting mid-September, it transfers into the wrestling room. And I'll be full go with wrestling from pretty much mid-September until late February.
Wow. We got to get into this wrestling thing, because I know that you did it when you were in high school, okay? So I know that we're talking Olympic-style wrestling, but were you a fan of the TV wrestling that we see? And is there any similar, anything that they do in Olympic-type wrestling that they actually do in the fake stuff?
Playing in Toronto, you went to one of the pay-per-views there, and then I was actually at the pay-per-view event in Kansas City. Shoot, that was a long time ago, but when Owen Hart fell from the roof and died, I was at that pay-per-view event. So I followed wrestling for a long time.
So did you ever want to be that style of wrestler? Could we have ever seen Shaun Marcum in the trunks with like a mask on or something?
No, I would not have seen that. I'm not jumping off the ropes and doing all that fake stuff.
What about MMA? Because to me, I think MMA is probably a little bit closer to what kind of wrestling you would have done.
Yeah, it's a little closer. You get obviously with the punching and kicking and all that stuff, but I don't know if I would have done that because I didn't like to be hit. So I was more the guy that wanted to put pain on people. So I don't know how I would have handled somebody hitting me.
One of the things I was really surprised of attending a Jays event a few years ago and getting to talk to players like Lloyd Mosby and Jesse Barfield, and the one thing they were talking about for young and up-and-coming players is the diversity of activities that they do. So as a baseball coach, do you like seeing a guy on your team that is also wrestling as well? Do you find that it helps?
From a pitching standpoint, I love it because it's one-on-one. That way they're not looking over their shoulder, looking for help, looking to the bullpen for help. So I love it from a pitching standpoint. But then I also like it for position players as well, just because the work ethic that you have to have with wrestling. Those guys that work hard in wrestling, it translates onto the baseball field. They're able to do stuff on their own, get their work in on their own, and they have great work ethic. It just seems like the wrestlers, it's just instilled in those guys to work hard, because once you get in the circle and get out on the mat, there's nobody there to help you. It's all on you to either go out there and win, or you go out there and get your ass kicked all over the mat. So it's up to you at that point, and you got to put in the work and have the right mindset.
Every pitcher has their out pitch. Do you have an out move for wrestling? Do you have your kind of trademark Shaun Marcum, put the guy on the mat move?
I don't know if you guys, how much you followed wrestling and the freestyle stuff, but I was a big John Smith guy. So I shot a lot of low single legs when I was in high school and youth wrestling. And then when I was on top, I was a leg rider. So those were my go-to moves on my feet. I was terrible on bottom. So my goal was not to get underneath anybody.
It still baffles my mind, Shaun, that you don't like to be hit, but you got into wrestling. Like, I understand that your goal is to do more of the hitting, but how do you do it when you don't like being hit?
Oh, I think wrestling was a little different. I was fortunate enough to have good coaching growing up throughout my career. I mean, I started wrestling when I was 5, so wrestling for that many years, and then having some quality coaches in high school and practicing with one of them. He kicked the crap out of me for 2 years. He'd just take me in the corner and beat the crap out of me my junior and senior year every day at practice for 2.5 hours. And once you get on the mat, you go from wrestling that guy that went on, I think he was a 3-time high school state champion and wrestled in college. Having that guy as your practice partner every day, you go out and wrestle a high school kid, it made it look a lot easier for me. So I didn't lose too often, especially my junior and senior year in high school. So that worked out.
Has there been any times where wrestling had to come into play in baseball, say on an inside pitch where someone charged the mound at you? Was it nice to have that backup? I went looking through your Blue Jays days and I couldn't find anything of someone charging the mound.
I hit, probably shouldn't say it, but I threw at a couple guys intentionally. I got fined once, but nobody ever charged. Trying to think. I know I hit Luke Scott once when they threw up and in on Batista a couple times. Got fined for that. And I hit A-Rod once when we had all that stuff with, I think it was Halladay Clark. I know Towers got him as well. But we cleared benches, but we never cleared when I was pitching.
At least one more hit pitch for A-Rod when he hit that big one off you, you know?
Yeah.
In hindsight, you could have got him right in the knee or something, you know?
Yeah, instead of giving up 600, you look back at it, but it is what it is. I'm not that's part of the wrestling mentality too. I'm not going to avoid competition or avoid anything. I'm going to go right after it, and I made a mistake pitch, and he hammered it.
One of the worst moments of my broadcasting career, Shaun, was when I had to go into the clubhouse and ask you about that after the game, because I knew that there's no way I'm going to get, oh yeah, he's one of the greatest hitters of all time, and like you just dread having to ask, right? Something like that.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't a fan of him playing against him. It is what it is, but I didn't mind him afterwards when I was playing, talking with him. He was a little more down to earth and laid back. He wasn't the A-Rod that you saw on the field, but when you're competing against him, you don't like a lot of guys that you're competing against anyway.
Yeah, I'll jump a little bit from kind of a negative memory, and I'll ask you, of your years in Toronto or perhaps Milwaukee, are the two teams that come right to mind. Do you have a moment? It's kind of the opposite of that A-Rod moment where you think back and it just floods you with good memories.
Yeah, I had a ton of good memories in Toronto, and then obviously Milwaukee. The one year we made the playoffs. My second year in Milwaukee didn't end while I was injured, but all my whole time in Toronto, I loved it. Wish you look back, it's like, man, I wish I wouldn't have ever been traded. I was lucky enough to get traded to a team that was able to play in the postseason, and we were 2 wins away from playing in the World Series. So it worked out for me, but man, I miss Toronto. After I got traded, still kept in touch with those guys playing against them. But I mean, there's a lot of memories. My debut, or that September call-up month, throwing the one hitter out in Oakland. That was, I think, my only complete game in the big leagues was out there, and I think they got the leadoff hit in the 8th inning. It was a solo home run. That was the only hit they had. I can't remember. I think it was Connor Jackson that hit it. Then hitting a grand slam on July 4th against Arizona, I believe. I think I also gave up a 600-foot home run to William Opeña, but there's a lot of good memories. It was a lot of fun playing. I definitely miss the competition side of it, but it's fun to coach a lot of these kids, and hopefully some of these guys will make it someday.
You mentioned your time in Toronto, and players that play for the Blue Jays always talk about what great fans they have here in Toronto, and I don't think we really see a scope of how good the fans were with the players until you see other cities. And I mean, just this past week, this whole situation with the New York Mets, and I know you were a Met for that one season. It was not a memorable season, but you saw what it was like with the fans. And I don't know if you saw the story, but Mets fans traditionally boo their team and their players when they aren't playing well. And the Mets players have this thing where they give the thumbs down. And Javi Baez went on record talking about how they're doing this back to the fans for booing them. And now Kevin Pillar, Marcus Stroman, everyone's kind of jumping in, and they're getting fried by people as well. From your experience as a baseball player, I mean, is booing something that you've always believed the fans have the right to do?
Yeah, they have the right. I mean, they're going to cheer when you're doing well. They're going to boo you when you're not. You're getting paid millions of dollars, so they expect you to go out there and perform to a high level. I think all the players expect to perform to a high level, but I mean, at the same time, they got to realize we're humans. We're going to, it's a game. It's a tough game. Whether, shoot, nowadays it's a lot different hitting wise. I mean, everybody's throwing 98 to 101 miles an hour, it seems like, and balls moving all over the place. So I can only imagine how hard it is to hit now and what those guys are going through. But New York, I don't know if it's so much the fans or what the media puts out that makes the fans get on the players, because it's definitely a tough place to play with the media, the market, all that stuff, and everybody. But the fans, they're good fans. They're loyal when you're doing well, and they're going to let you know when you're not. Where it seemed like Toronto, even Milwaukee, even St. Louis, shoot, as a visiting player in St. Louis, they're just good baseball fans. You go back and watch a lot of St. Louis games, and you can be a visiting player and make a great play, and they'll stand and applaud for you. They're just quality baseball fans. It's nice to see some of those, but at the end of the day, man, baseball fans are going to do what they want. They have the right to do that, and you just got to go out and play the game the right way, and whatever happens, happens.
Can you see both sides of it, though, Shaun? Can you see, the fans have the right to express their, displeasure, and as a player, I mean, you are thinking, you are our fans. Why are you booing us? And that kind of almost, but to me, like, I understand them feeling that way, but to actually fight back, it almost seems like it's a losing battle for the players to fight back against the fans.
Yeah, I would think it is, especially there in New York. They can be ruthless at times, so they may even come out even worse and get on you even more. I've always looked at it as, I'm playing for your team. Support us whether we're doing well or we're not. If you support us, and that might help us get out of our slump or whatever it is. I was fortunate enough back in Toronto and even early Milwaukee. We didn't have all the social media stuff, so you didn't have to worry about reading a lot of that stuff. If you wanted to read, you had to find it in newspaper. So it was nice to be able to avoid all that. It's got to be a little harder on them now with all the social media and Twitter and all that. You see it with Trevor Bauer all the time, but just people just nonstop on you about whatever it is that's going on.
Yeah, would you worry yourself as a player, or even now as a coach, would you worry about the distraction that causes? Because it throws them into that sort of 24-hour news cycle where everything that a player says and does is magnified and parsed over, and it can just sort of seem like an endless nightmare. Would it be something you'd encourage people to stay far away from, or is it just kind of going to be a part of the game going forward, do you think?
I don't think it's going to go away. Social media, I think it's only going to get bigger, especially the way they're wanting everybody to engage with the fans and let them be kids and be themselves and do all that. So all these people are going to be out there doing all their social media things. As a player, or if I was coaching somebody, I just take it for what it is. Don't let it affect you if you can. I would have tried to avoid it, not post anything stupid where somebody come after you. And if you're going to post anything, I probably wouldn't even post anything. I would just have the Twitter just because they wanted us to, but I'd most likely try to stay away from it, especially in New York or Boston, any one of those big media markets or like what you see with Bauer too. A lot of those guys that have those big media Twitter followers, but they're self-promoting themselves, and some of it works out, some of them get endorsements and all that. But for me, I'd stay away from it. I try to encourage my players to stay away from it and just focus on the game.
It's funny. I'm the father of a 21-year-old, and sometimes he kind of looks at me and said, Dad, do you ever remember? Were you ever 21? Were you ever a kid? And it makes me think of you now as a coach. When you look back to yourself as that kid when you were first coming up, and now you look almost as this father figure. God, you're almost 40-year-old, Shaun. I mean, come on.
December.
Do you have to be reminded sometimes that the way these players may be acting, that you as the adult think, come on, guys, that you were doing the same thing as a kid too?
I look back at coaching my son's team. They do a lot of the crap that you see, which I call it crap because the game's not the way it was back when we were coming up. It was a little more old school back then. You ran hard. You did everything to try to, you didn't jog. You sprinted on and off the field. So now everybody watches a lot of the major league guys, and it's a lot of showboating, which I'm not a big fan of. So it's tough to say on that aspect of it. I try to tell my kids, play the game hard, play the game the right way. I think eventually baseball will hopefully turn back around as far as the non-showboating and letting the players handle the game on the field, or handle things on the field themselves, and not having some of the policing going on from all the off-field guys, but let the players handle themselves on the field and see how it goes. Because I think once that starts happening, some of that stuff will go away.
A lot of the changes that have happened in baseball, say in the last 10 or 15 years, it seems to be ramping up. And, one area in particular is pitching. And it's probably changed fundamentally more than any other area in baseball. As someone yourself, you were a low velocity control pitcher that had a ton of success. Do you see people like that as a coach coming through the pipeline now? Are they making it up into the lower minor leagues with lower velocities, or do you almost need 95 at a high school now to write a ticket?
I haven't had anybody make it to pro ball yet. I started in college and coaching college in 2015, and we didn't have anybody drafted. I was only there for 2 years, and now coaching high school, we've got a couple kids that I've coached here the last 2 years that I think got a chance to make it. My nephew's one of them. He's one of them that could possibly be a draft guy next year. And then we've got a kid at Liberty that I'm coaching that pretty sure he's going to be a draft guy. He's up to 96. Was up to 96 a couple weeks ago, but think they, for the high school kids and even the college kids, they're going to look at your body. You could be 89, 92, but if you're 6'5" and 150 pounds and you're projectable, I think that, that's something they'll take a shot at just because you're projectable body type, as long as you can locate the ball and spin it a little bit, because spin rate's a big thing now.
Do you think we're ever going to see a pitcher like a Roy Halladay, that type of guy, that, that beast of a pitcher? Do you think we'll ever see anything like that again?
Now that pitchers are starting to figure out the launch angle thing and how to pitch to it, I think pitching will come back where you have to be able to locate. I was actually talking to Rick Kranitz, it was probably a year or two ago, and he was saying the same thing, that he thinks it'll come back. Just because you get a lot of those guys that are throwing 95 to 100 that don't know where the ball's going. And then when they have a couple bad outings, they go to the next guy or bring the next guy up that's doing the same thing. And I think it's hard to have success like that, where you can have somebody like Roy, somebody that is going to go out there and give you 200 plus innings. And just the way the bullpens are built now too, I just got to imagine it's got to come back. It's in baseball cycle. I think it'll cycle back through, and who knows what Manfred will do. If that's another topic, but who knows what that guy will end up doing. But I just think I think it'll come back, and a lot of it'll too to depend on if he eliminates a shift, because then people probably aren't going to try the launch angle thing and trying to hit it over everybody's head. They're going to go back to their normal old approach of trying to hit the ball where it's pitched.
Now, another big thing that's changed, obviously, is the injury sort of situation with pitchers. Are you seeing it at younger, like, as we're seeing tons of it in the major leagues from the year 2000 to now? It seems like it's exponentially increasing. Are you seeing it at the development league or the development levels with younger players, the injuries starting, or is this something that just seems to happen as they get further up in their development?
I haven't seen it yet with my son's team or even my younger son's team. And then with the high school, there may have been some at schools we played against, but we haven't had any. I think that's a lot of it too, just everybody trying to throw so hard, whether it's doing all these weighted balls or constantly throwing year round or max effort every single pitch and not actually pitching. So I think that has a lot to do with the arm injuries. And then with the spin rates, trying to manipulate the ball so much that they're maybe putting more torque on their elbows or shoulders, trying to get all that spin rate that all these clubs are wanting.
When you're working with a young pitcher now, and your philosophy as a pitcher was you go out there every fifth day and your goal was to pitch 9 innings, complete the game, and get the win. Nowadays, that's not even on the radar for teams. Once you're through the lineup 3 times, next pitcher's in there now. So do you look at grooming young pitchers differently with a different philosophy, like go out and give them your best 4 innings and give it everything you have, as opposed to, lengthening yourself to be a guy that can go 7, 8, 9 innings?
At the high school level, so we have pitch counts, and depending on how many pitches you throw, will let us know when you can pitch again. So if you throw so many pitches, you have to have so many days of rest. So I just tell them to go out and attack hitters and try to get the ball put in play in 3 pitches or less. And if they get to an 0-2, 1-2 count, then they try to go for the strikeout, but try to pitch the contact. Just that way we can get some depth out of our starting pitchers, being that we have pitch counts. And we played quite a bit of games. We played 36 games in the state of Missouri. And I think we played that in like 2 months. It seems like we're playing every day. So there's not a whole lot of time for practices, and constantly playing, and having been a high school team with, I think our varsity team might have 14 players. So you don't have a ton. It's not like a 25-man roster. So you got to have guys that go out there and go deep into games with their 105 pitch count. You got to be able to go out there and give us 5, 6 innings.
That was actually going to be the question I was going to ask you, is what a typical pitch count or limit would be at the high school level. So about 100?
So for high school, if you're a junior or senior on varsity, well, I guess it doesn't matter. If you're a junior or senior, you can throw 105. If you're a freshman or sophomore, I think it's 90 or 95 is your max.
So when you
got to go out there and then, like I said, if you throw more than 30 or less than 30, you can pitch the next day. If you throw from like 30 to 45, you have to have a day off. If it's 45 to, I think, 60, you have to have 2 days rest. 65 to 80 or something's 3 days rest, and anything over 80, you have to have 4 days off.
So when you look back to your development, were there pitch counts back then?
No, No. I remember my junior year in high school. I think it was my junior year, might have been my senior year, but I threw 114 pitches in our district semifinal game, and then closed the game the next day.
Wow.
So probably led to some arm injuries later on in my career.
Yeah, that would have been my next follow-up is, do you think that the limits are going to be something that helps? Because it doesn't seem that it is, putting all these pitching limits, and we still keep running into injury after injury. But is it something, do you think, that'll help eventually?
I think if they're coached younger coming up, so like with my older son's team, they're 14, 15 years old. I keep them on that high school pitch count. And we started doing that when they were 13. I'm like, once you get to high school, you got to be able to do this for 4 years. And a lot of colleges, I mean, they'll kind of do something similar. They don't run guys out there 130 pitches. They may go 115, 110, 100, whatever, but they don't run them out there 130 some pitches. So I've been doing that for 2 years now. I mean, I don't abuse anybody. Like if they usually try to keep them around the 85, 95 range. And then they're going to have plenty of time off. And then, but they're consistently throwing that same pitch count every day or every weekend, or have been for the last couple of years. So their arms are, I think, conditioned for what they're going to be used to or going into high school with and possibly into college ball with.
Now, unlike you, Shaun, or you, Tom, my son never played baseball at any kind of high level. So I never experienced that feeling of watching him play, and as a father and as a baseball guy. Now, Tom, you didn't play baseball professionally. Shaun, you did. So I'm just curious, and I've seen Tom's son play, and I know the feeling that Tom has when he watches his son, but having the career that you had, what does that mean to you when you see your son out there? Does he pitch?
He does some. He doesn't listen to me. So it's amazing. I was a college shortstop and hitter, and played professionally as a pitcher, and he'll only listen to me about defense. He doesn't really listen to me when it comes to hitting or pitching. So he doesn't pitch much just because he wants to do his own thing and doesn't throw strikes very much. My middle child, all he does is throw strikes. So, I mean, I know there was one game this year he threw like 56 pitches and there was like 44 strikes or something. So he just pounds the strike zone. But my older boy, I don't know what the heck he's going through his head. It must be the teenage years. So he doesn't pitch a whole lot, but I've got plenty of arms, and I'm actually going to start taking my son to the guy that I played with in college that produces a lot of really good arms and high draft picks out of Missouri and Kansas City area on the Kansas side as well. And that's what he does with mechanics and all that. So I'm actually going to take him over there and see if my son will listen to him a little bit.
I feel so much better now that you've said that, because my son is going into the media department, but not on air stuff. Like, he does all this editing. And I've told him many times, listen, I've been editing things, video and audio, for 25 years, but nope. Dad, you're just you don't know because you're my dad. So it happens. The kids just, they don't care how much experience you have. They want to do it their way. So that's what's good.
I'm actually looking forward to this coming spring, because since I coach at Liberty, my son goes to Excelsior. I won't be coaching him until summer. So it'll be the first time he's played baseball for somebody else. I'm kind of looking forward to it. See what kind of player, hopefully this coach can develop him a little bit, and maybe he'll say something or teach him something that I haven't shown him. But it'll also be nice to, when I'm not coaching at Liberty, to come watch him play and actually sit in the seats or sit somewhere and not be in the dugout, and just be a dad for a few months and be able to watch him play.
Well, listen, you mentioned your love for Toronto, and you still have a lot of fans here in this city, and we've invited 3 of your fans to join us here on the Zoom, and each one of them are going to ask you a question, and they'll probably be better than the questions that I've been asking and Tom has been asking. Good. So say hello to, we've got Jody, we've got Craig, and we've got Fiona, and each one of them are going to ask you a question. And Jody, let's start with you. I'll let you say hello to Shaun and fire away.
Hey, Shaun. Nice to meet you.
You too.
So just to tag on to what you and Barry were just talking about, I got sort of looped into helping coach my son's team this year. And I said immediately to the convener of the league when she was asking, we really need some help. Is there any other you could help out? And I said I would. I said, but he won't listen to me. And even we get to the field, and the first thing I say is, get your glove on, bud, go play catch, go warm up. And he just looks at me like I have like 6 eyes. So it's not the other coach says, come on, bud, get your glove on. So they're all the same. I wanted to ask you something that's pretty much unrelated, I think, to what you guys talked about so far. But something that's happening a lot with teams in the game these days is the antics that they have after home runs. The laundry.
You're referring to the jacket that the Blue Jays have, their home run jacket?
Yeah, the home run jacket.
Yes. The laundry cart, the whatever. What do you think of stuff?
I'll be honest. It's probably been, since I've actually sat down and watched the major league games, probably been 3 or 4 years. I'll flip on every now and again if it's somebody that I know, which there aren't too many players that I played with or against still playing. I've got some friends. One of my good friends that I grew up with as a manager for the Padres. So I'll turn on some of their games to see, but I can't stand it. I just want you to hit, like Scott Rowland. He was my idol when he hit a home run. I loved how Scott Rowland hit a home run. He'd hit a home run and sprint around the bases, come back, and let's play baseball. Like, let's keep the game moving. That's part of probably why Manfred gets so upset and wants to put all these clocks in there and this and that so we can speed the game up. Well, if you run the bases like you're supposed to and get on and off the field like you're supposed to, you wouldn't have to deal with that stuff.
There you go. Jody, thank you for the question. Very succinct answer and exactly what I expected from you, Shaun. Fiona, you're up next with Shaun Marcum.
Hi, Shaun. It's nice to meet you.
You too.
I'm just wondering, when you played for the Jays, which pitching coach did you learn more from, Brad Arnsberg or Bruce Walton?
Oh, man. Great question. It's hard to say. I don't know if I learned more from one of them or not. I probably learned more from Roy Halladay. In the big leagues, it seems like it's a lot different. We would always go down, myself, AJ, Dustin, Jesse Litchman. We'd all talk to each other and watch each other's bullpens, and then sitting in the dugout trying to pick Doc's brain a little bit. So I probably learned a little bit more from Doc than I did any of my pitching coaches. They were more there with game planning and stuff like that. But if it came to mechanical stuff, I probably learned a little bit more from Doc. Now I did learn some grips and stuff from Bruce, and same with Arnie with my slider. And Bruce was more of the changeup, but just from a pitching standpoint, I think overall I probably learned more just from picking Doc's brain and watching Doc pitch.
How long did it take you to get up enough nerve to actually approach Doc? Because we've talked to a number of the guys that were part of that rotation here on this show. Brett Cecil, one of them, and talked about how intimidating it was, and he was afraid to actually break the ice with Doc. Did you just connect with him on a different level, or did you just say, screw it, I'm just going to go ask him?
We pretty much said screw it when AJ left. So Doc didn't have anybody to talk to. It was all of the younger guys on the pitching staff, so he had to talk to him. That's when he opened up, and we were able to pick his brain a lot more.
Wow. So he would actually really open up and share stuff with you guys then? Yeah,
we'd talk grips or pitching and how, especially with me and Jesse, because we didn't throw 100 miles an hour like McGowan or Brandon League or somebody like that. So, or even AJ when he was there, we kind of had to pitch similar to Doc, with the two-seamer and the cutter away and all that. The breaking ball, the changeup. So we all pitched kind of similar to the three of us. So it was picking Doc's brain, how he did certain things, grips, how he got the movement and stuff that he got. But you can just watch Doc and not even talk to him and learn a lot.
Very good point. Fiona, thank you again for your question. Craig, you are up next. Say hello to Shaun.
Great. Thank you, Thomas. Shaun, absolutely great to be on. Before my question, a quick comment that one hitter you had in Oakland is such a microcosm of how wonky the game of baseball is and how difficult it is. You're right, Shaun. It was Connor Jackson hitting that home run to spoil your no-hitter. It was one of 2 home runs Connor Jackson hit that season. Like, just incredible bad luck. But that's baseball, right? That's the flow of the game. Incredible.
And if I remember right, it was the first pitch of the inning because I was like, I'm just going to throw it. I got a no-hitter going. I'm going to throw it pretty much down the middle. He's probably taken. Well, he wasn't.
Man,
trying to get an early strike.
Now, Shaun, I'm really fascinated to hear your thoughts. I want to get between your ears on this because I know you had I'm hoping the pleasure of working with a lot of veteran catchers in your days. 2 of the Molina brothers, Jose and Benji, as your battery mates. Jonathan Lucroy. Here in Toronto, Rod Barajas, Greg Zahn. I remember Jason Phillips ended his career as a Blue Jay, and the 2 of you were very effective together. So I'd love to hear, Shaun, what was important to you in your relationship with your catcher?
I threw with a lot of veterans. John Buck was another one.
John Buck,
in Toronto and New York. But for me, it was a comfort thing. Somebody I was comfortable with, and somebody that was on the same page with me, where I didn't have to shake. Somebody that I trusted, where whatever they put down, I had 100% confidence that was the right call. And I, for the most part, I pretty much had that relationship with all my catchers. Even Martin Maldonado in Milwaukee, which I didn't throw to him a ton. It was always Luke Roy, but felt like I had that relationship with a lot of them, because I think my pitching style, I was pretty much able, for the most part, to throw any pitch at any time. So they would throw down whatever, and I wasn't the guy that threw hard, obviously, so I had to pitch backwards and throw breaking balls and fastball counts and all that. So having those guys back there that trusted me to be able to do that and pitch that type of way, they didn't have to call the game like they would for somebody that threw 98 with only one off-speed pitch. They were able to call whatever they wanted, and we would go, obviously go over game plans before the game, but it seems like we were always on the page. Now, if I had to pick one, that's another hard one to do, but I mean, Philip had a really good relationship with Phillips. And I also liked, not to sound mean or anything, but I like bigger, heavier catchers, because it just felt like I had a big guy back there, a bigger target to throw to. Because I felt like if I threw to a small target, then I'd miss a little bit more, where I had that big body. Even John Schneider, I think he's a coach up there now in Toronto. It's been forever since I talked to him, but he was my catcher in AAA for a long time. And he was a bigger guy. But having that bigger body, Sal Fasano was a good one. And he got low to the ground. Phillips was low to the ground. But if I had to pick one, I think I was probably on the page a lot more with John Buck than anybody else.
So what you're saying, Shaun, is if I was squatting behind home plate, you would not be a big fan of that at all?
Probably not. No, I wanted that bigger catcher. Like Sal was awesome just because he was big, but he was able to get down low. Same for John Buck. He was so tall, but he was able to get down and give a low target, but he was also big enough where I didn't feel like I was throwing through like a pinhole.
Yeah. Craig, thanks for your question. And it's interesting because, Shaun, I've always thought of you as a real laid-back guy and very easy to get along with. Was that your relationship with pretty much everybody on the team, that you were just kind of an easygoing guy and you didn't really kind of have guys that you didn't like?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, you're around all these guys, 25. I mean, if you're lucky, 26 guys, 27 guys, if nobody gets injured for 182 days. So, I mean, people are going to get in each other's face or down their throats every now and again and get annoyed with people. But at the same time, man, I felt like I had a great relationship with a lot of my teammates, pretty much all of them. I mean, it seems like, especially in Toronto and my couple years in Milwaukee, man, we had a good group of guys. Everybody got along. Everybody hung out together, did things together. And then I played for some teams where there was real cliquey, where you had 4 or 5 guys and they hung out by themselves, and another 4 or 5 guys hung out by themselves. And those two teams, not those two teams, but those teams are a little different to play for me anyway, because I wanted to get along with everybody. And that's just how I was raised growing up, playing with teams that it was all team, pick each other up, find a way to help your teammate out. And we having a good team chemistry, guys that get along together, it seemed like they go a lot further.
Well, thank God you never got to hate me, or you wouldn't be on the show tonight. I do appreciate you coming on. Listen, man, it's great catching up. So happy to see what you're doing with the kids, and keep going, man. Keep in baseball. We need Shaun Marcum to stay in baseball.
We'll try. Definitely appreciate you having me on. So I hope all's well up there, and good talking with you guys as well.
And there is former Toronto Blue Jay Shaun Marcum. And, Tom, once again, for those that have watched this show, you might look and say, well, how can I sit in this Zoom room and ask questions? And, I've thrown it out on Twitter. I've to people that aren't OTP insiders. And, if we're ever in a situation where we need more, come try it out. Maybe you'll like it. Maybe you'll want to sign up and be an OTP insider. If they do, Thomas, how do they go about doing it?
Patreon.com/outofthepark. As well, for the next month, the first person each week, once we have released notification, we've got a chat coming up. First person to DM me on Twitter, I'm gonna use my influence in this show to get you on to the podcast if you'd like, and sit in on one of these chats. So
cool.
Again, patreon.com/outofthepark, or send me on Twitter a DM. Let me know, you want in on one of these and get part of something real special.
Are you going to let us know what that Twitter handle would be?
I just assumed everybody knew. It's _Thomas. for the best baseball. Sometimes there's music, and sometimes there's great humor. Follow me on Twitter, _Thomas. Send me a DM if you want to get in on any one of the talks we've got coming up in the next month. Some very exciting people we're lining up to talk to.
See, now that's how you self-promote. Way to go, Tom.
Look at that.
Yeah, I taught you well, young master. Programming note, on next week's show, we are going to be joined by Cy Young Award winner, not former Cy Young Award winner. You know, we're going to get into that with this Cy Young Award winner. Because he's not a former. He won a Cy Young Award, right?
Mm-hmm.
He didn't formerly. Anyway, Cy Young Award winner, former Toronto Blue Jay. Can he be a former Toronto Blue Jay? Is that possible?
I think he's kind of like a part-time Toronto Blue Jay.
Would it be
maybe loosely affiliated Blue Jay?
All right. Okay. Cy Young Award winner Pat Henkin joins us on the next Out of the Park, and he'll also be joined by a number of our OTP insiders. So, folks, as Tom said, we've got some great shows coming up. Well, Thomas, I'm going to tell you this. As much as I appreciate you doing the show from afar and not coming in with me anymore, I still can hear when you boo, and it does hurt. But I have discovered just a wonderful, wonderful thing, and that is called the mute button. Folks, thank you so much for making us a part of your week.
Here we go, man. Check me out. Under the ball and caught it. Caught the damn ball.
Two hands,
Two
too.
hands.
Two hands on the glove.
That's not bad, though. He taught me that. Hey, that was nice.
Yeah.
That's impressive, Barry.